the wait is over, and it was worth it. In that, it was a really good movie. I am not saying that we should have had to wait this long for a female-led Marvel movie, but there you go. So just generic platitudes out of the way first, I would give this movie a 9 out of 10, maybe a 9.5 if I were feeling generous about some of the things I didn't like. All of the acting is fantastic. I think the standouts are actually Samuel L. Jackson, Lashana Lynch, and... hang on, I want to check and make sure I got this right. Akira Akbar, who is playing Monica Rambeau. She is adorable, and I want her in the Young Avengers movie alongside Cassie Lang. Mwah. Babies, I love them. And that's not to say Brie Larson wasn't good, because she absolutely was. She knocked it out of the park. Fuck all the haters who said she couldn't do this. She can, she does, she is awesome. There weren't really action set pieces in quite the same way as other Marvel movies. Like, in other Marvel movies, I think you go maybe 10, 20 minutes without a fight. These stretches between fights felt a lot longer, or at least they were smaller fights. And that's the thing, this movie is small in places, which is interesting when you have as much space stuff as this does, but I think that works in its favor because this is kind of a mystery movie. I mean, we know all the answers, but the characters don't, and it's Carol finding out her past because they decided to take Carol's origin story in kind of a different direction, and I'm not going to spoil it too much here, but basically it's a who am I quest. And it works really well, and there's a lot of fun touches of both 80s and 90s things. Now, I don't count this as a spoiler because Brie Larson has mentioned it a couple of times in the press tour. The best part of the movie is the relationship between Carol and Maria. Or Mariah, I don't know. I've heard it pronounced both ways, but either way, that is, I think, the core relationship of the movie, even more than Carol and Fury, which is a close second. But Carol and Monica, they're the closest thing Brie Larson said there is to a love interest, which I am totally fine if people want to headcanon them as gay, because it totally works, but just on the textual level, they have such a close friendship and such a wonderful camaraderie that I can't help but root for them. It's wonderful, and I am especially happy for Lashana Lynch. I hope this is a jumping off point for her because she was absolutely wasted in Still Star Crossed. Yes, I will cover that at some point because, oh boy, was that show a mess. The Skrulls are interesting. I loved the makeup for the Skrulls. It was fantastic, and the transition effects were also really mesmerizing, I think is the right word, because they weren't pretty to look at, and yet you couldn't look away, or at least I couldn't look away anytime a Skrull transformed. And I'm not gonna sugarcoat it. They wasted Lee Pace. Like, poor Lee Pace. He had such a thankless job playing such a one-note character in Guardians of the Galaxy 1. And then they have this chance to beef him up and they give him like two 2-minute cameos, and I'm so sorry, Lee. Look, maybe somebody at some point will revive Pushing Daisies. That was where you belonged. You know what? I'm gonna get into spoilers from here because I cannot hold this in. Okay, so here's the thing. I am split on the reveal that Annette Bening was playing not only the Supreme Intelligence, which I knew from her interview with Stephen Colbert, but Mar-Vell. And the thing is, the reason that I'm kind of disappointed is because I am a fan of the Young Avengers. That's like the only comics that I've read with any kind of thoroughness. And if you've read those comics, you might know about Hulkling. And in the comics, Hulkling is the son of Mar-Vell, who is male in that universe, and the Skrull princess Enel. So, I mean, maybe Mar-Vell might have had an affair with a male Skrull, but I don't see that happening, especially because older lady kind of implies, I don't know, alien biology. It's entirely possible, but basically, I'm mad that movie killed my hopes for Young Avengers as they are in the comics. I mean, we still could have a Young Avengers, but it will not be the same, and I am disappointed on that level because I love the Young Avengers, but I like Annette Bening, and I think she does well as Mar-Vell / Wendy Lawson, and she just has this nice, warm, motherly presence as the character, and then she does a great job corrupting it as the Supreme Intelligence. And that kind of brings me into my other quibble with the movie, the reason that I took off one point, and that is that it kind of pulled a Frozen / Zootopia, what a twist, with the villains, where the Skrulls aren't the villains. Jan Rog, who is Jude Law's character, I got into so many arguments with my friends about who he was playing, but yeah, so Jan Rog is the bad guy who killed Marvel and basically brought Carol back to Hala, the Kree homeworld, and was kind of responsible for her losing her memories. And I kind of read political subtext into the reveal of dynamic, because now the Kree are this conquering military-industrial complex world, and the Skrulls are refugees that have been labeled as terrorists, and where have I seen this before? And I'm not saying that that was a bad thing, because God knows I despise the American military-industrial complex that venerates service without actually doing anything when veterans come home and need help, but I don't know. I don't think that they fully communicated the depth of that. I mean, they picked absolutely the right actor to do that, because Ben Mendelsohn as Talos is very good at reaching the same level of compelling whoopee as Tom Hiddleston was in the first Loki movie, but, you know, the difference is Talos is actually even less of a bad guy when you think about it. Because Talos hasn't tried to commit genocide! But I also think that this ended up working in the movie's favor. It's almost like the writers anticipated the backlash that was going to be coming from the dude bro community, because A, there are, you know, those standard you should smile more jokes that were pretty clearly already in the movie, because we were seeing them. There was a behind the scenes photo specifically from the scene. I know it because it's a scene of Carol holding a map, and yeah, I knew. Jan Rog has this thing of, like, where he keeps telling Carol to control her emotions, because that's the only way she can beat him, and the way she does actually end up beating him at the end is basically to say, fuck you, my emotions are valid, and they're the way I'm going to kick your ass. And she also says, I don't need your approval, I have nothing to prove to you, which is basically a feminist war cry. I have nothing to prove to you, this is for me. So, good on that. And I should note that this is the first Marvel movie that has had a majority female influence on the writing and the directing. I mean, it's a 50-50 directing, but that is the most women Marvel has had directing up to this point. Would have happened sooner, but that's for later. We'll talk about you, Patty Jenkins. We'll talk about it. Yeah, so those were basically the only things that didn't work for me. The twist and the, well, not the Annette Bening, but the fact that I will probably now not get my favorite queer couple in all of everything. But on the upside, I have a new favorite queer couple. What do you even call a Carol Maria ship? Somebody get on this, I want to figure it out. I almost forgot to talk about Goose. Shame on me. Goose was fucking hilarious. I mean, first of all, just Samuel L. Jackson cooing over a kitty is so wonderful. I love it. I love it. I love it. But then we get to the reveal that, like in the comics, Goose is a Flurkin, which, if you don't know, is basically a kitty, but with, like, Cthulhu, Eldritch Horror, hentai tentacles that can come up and grab you. He eats the Tesseract! I had to check because I was pretty sure, like, something was off about that continuity, but nope. They dug out the Tesseract while Howard Stark was still alive, presumably before, you know, Carol came to Earth and before Steve was found. So, dodged that bullet, but Goose ate the Tesseract! And several Kree, but he ate the Tesseract! And then in one of the end credit scenes, he barfs it up like a hairball. Oh my god. I want that cat. I don't care what it vomits up, I want that fucking cat. Although he also claws out Fury's eye. Like, that is how Fury lost his eye. He got clawed across the face by a flirkin. Oh god. So many people laughed at that. It was so mean but so funny. Seriously though, this was a great movie and I loved it, and if I had it in my budget I would go see it again, but I don't have it in my budget because I need to save all my money for California. Please donate to my GoFundMe if you haven't already. I really want to go. Thank you. I highly recommend this movie. I enjoyed it. It made me feel the way Marvel movies used to make me feel. I have not felt this way, I think, yeah, since Black Panther. I haven't felt this way since Black Panther. And I know that doesn't seem like a long time. That was literally 13 months ago, but it has been a trip since then. And yeah, they did some Infinity War follow-up because obviously they had to. That's the other end credit scene. Oh, and I have to mention Stan Lee. Oh my god, I am so bad. Stan Lee, they did two things. He has his traditional cameo, which is him, like, flipping through going, yes, no, or something to that effect, but everybody in the theater went, aw, when that happened. But the real thing is that they changed the Marvel title sequence when the movie starts, and it's footage of all Stan's cameos up until that point. And then it just said, thank you, Stan, and it was wonderful. It was heartwarming. So I think I had more to say, but I forgot it because I was waiting a really long time for the bus to get back home. Traffic was a nightmare. I'm sorry about that, but if I have more thoughts, I will let you know. Please tell me what you thought in the comments if you have seen Captain Marvel yet, and if you haven't, go see it! Go! And then come back. Go, shoot. Oh, also, like, share, subscribe, Patreon me for early access. My next episode will be coming out probably in a week or so because I'm going to be doing a full episode, not just an editorial, but I think it's going to be fun. Alright, thank you very much and I will see you soon. À bientôt!